Thank you again, everybody who's joining today. And like I just mentioned, we're going to be covering all kinds of interesting and relevant topics. I think is the most important thing here with all the new tech that's coming into workforce development. And obviously the hot topic everybody wants to kind of discuss and explore is artificial intelligence and how to implement it, or how it already has been implemented and how we're going to move forward with it. But next slide, pretty please, Brittany. All right, your speakers. I'll introduce myself, and then Sandy and Khalil can introduce themselves as well. But my name is Max Shelkoff. I am a senior mobile solutions consultant here at Engage by Cell, and I've been working with workforce development boards primarily for a couple years now, and working in the tech field for quite some time. But Khalil and Sandy, you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Khalil Al-Arifi. I'm the project director here at Equus Workforce Solutions. We're the one-stop operator here in the Virgin Islands, where we basically provide WIOA Title I services to adult dislocated workers. I've been in the workforce space for less than a year, if you can believe it or not. So I'm excited to be a part of the discussion today.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Mead. I'm the VP of Workforce Development here with Metrics Learning. Gosh, I'm going to date myself. You can tell I'm going to be the older of the three of us here. I've been in workforce as a training provider for 23 years. So working with the honor of working with workforce operations all across the country and doing a lot there in the Virgin Islands.
Fantastic. All right. Next slide. Perfect. So a little bit about Engage by Cell. We've been in the cloud-based SaaS technology realm for about 16 years now. Primary focuses in technology on communications and information and things like that. Large presence in the training, HR, safety, workforce, and visitor experiences. And there's some of our current clients and partners. Got Equus Workforce Solutions up there representing Khalil, and Workforce 180 and Metrics Learning, and a lot of amazing organizations we work with every day. So next slide. And what we're going to do is kind of give a brief overview and introduction to how technology, including artificial intelligence, can be leveraged within workforce development. But I think it's important to identify some of the challenges that need addressed and can be addressed by utilizing technology. So obviously these are going to be really familiar challenges by most of everybody on this call in workforce development, and Khalil and Sandy, is how do job seekers even get started, right? How do they get the information that they need to even start entertaining the idea of obtaining employment or education or training? And how do they find access to those things? And the job seekers always, I'm sure Khalil, you can attest to this, have a ton of questions, and they always need a ton of help of kind of initiating that process. And part of that challenge, Khalil, is obviously how do you engage with them, right? I mean, are people answering emails like they used to?
No, not at all. No, not at all. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And same goes for phone calls, and Sandy, you kind of mentioned how long you've been in the industry, and back in the day, let's say even 5-10 years ago, I mean, people were much more inclined to answer phone calls too, right?
Oh, absolutely. What's all we would do is smile and dial to connect that way. And now they don't answer, right? You can't get it.
Right.
So
Exactly. And it's becoming more and more of an issue with younger demographics. I mean, I don't think that's anything that isn't obvious. People are vetting out phone calls now. They'll see it come through and they're just going to wait for it to go to voicemail. And they might answer that voicemail, right? And emails, if you get a 20% open read respond rate, you're knocking it out of the park, right? But along with that, there's a lot of processes that have kind of become cumbersome in the sense that these communication channels aren't as effective as they once were. So that's kind of how we've transitioned into implementing some different various technologies. And Brittany, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, pretty please. So how do we overcome these challenges, right? So we're going to talk about how to utilize the mobile tech, and the two platforms that Engage by Cell provides to workforce development is a text messaging platform to kind of break that communication barrier we were talking about. And then the mobile web app side of things is how we provide in a really streamlined way all of these informational resources to the folks that are seeking them. Okay. So text messaging, pretty exciting stuff. And it's not new tech, right? We're all familiar with text messaging, but it's kind of become a different viewpoint on how text messaging is utilized within workforce development and just in the job force industry in general, because I'm going to date myself a little bit, but when I first started my career, we were kind of coached to not use text messaging, right? And Sandy, how have you seen text messaging kind of involve in engagement or information distribution over the past couple of years?
All of us will read our text. How many times I contact somebody at a meeting and say, look, send me a text. I'll always read my text. I can't always answer my phone. So I think everybody will look at their text. And when we're trying to call a customer just to, make sure we answer their questions or an email that you couldn't get through, they reply to text. So it is nice that we have that tool today to be able to utilize it. And what we love about what you do for our customers is the ability to mass text, to be able to get the word out there. So yeah, there's no doubt reaching out with text, you're going to get an answer more likely than not, than any other way from emailing or a phone call there, Max.
Yeah. And to bounce off of that, kind of statistically speaking, you heard me say, 20% open read respond rate for emails is killing it, right? With text messaging, we found that text messages have a 95% open read and respond rate, right? And Khalil, you can attest to that with the Governor's Workforce Summit, just engaging folks, trying to get them to participate in a large event like that. I mean, our success rate for the Governor's Summit this year was better than it's ever been, right?
Well, yeah, and it's primarily because we were using text messages. Another thing that I really love about this particular technology and utilizing it in this way is not only, as you said, you have that 95% read rate, but how quickly that individual reads that information. It's a significantly shorter time than if you send an email.
Exactly.
If a person sends me an email, I'm not reading it at least for about 15, 30 minutes. For most people, it's longer than that. But with the text message, it's almost immediate. So yeah,
exactly. You nailed it on the head. And it's something that we all need to start utilizing more and more every day, just to ensure that we're delivering those messages, they're reading it, and they're reading it as quickly as possible, right? So I think you both nailed it there. So mobile web apps, this is the next kind of half of the solutions that are available to our customers in workforce development. And all of us have downloaded an app, right? So a lot of us have downloaded what's called to a native application, which is where you go to the App Store and you download it and things like that. Now, ours differ a little bit, and Sandy and Khalil are familiar with this, but ours are what are referred to as mobile web apps. And what that means is it's just URL based. So kind of going back to that text messaging piece, imagine you push out a text message and you embed a little clickable link in that text. The end user, the recipient clicks that link, boom, up pops all of the information that they could possibly ever need inside of that mobile web app, like training resources and any kind of engagement. So videos, photos, fillable forms, GPS mapping even. I mean, we really provide a full suite of all of that information and all of those resources that folks need to start the process of seeking for employment or training or education. And the biggest, kind of advantage here is many people, like in the Virgin Islands and many other places, don't have full unlimited access to a desktop computer, right? I mean, many people don't nowadays. And so how do we engage them? We use our cell phones, right? And I know, Sandy, you've kind of picked up on kind of the effectiveness and what role kind of online learning platforms and virtual classrooms and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit how metrics learning has definitely started to utilize the mobile side of things via the mobile web apps?
Absolutely. We do a lot of workshops and work with workforce boards all across the country, Max. And one of their concerns is just like you said, people don't have tablets or laptops, but almost everybody walks around with their cell phone. So we're excited that Metrics Learning, 85% of our courses are mobile ready. So they're already preset to go. We also have had a lot of fun, and this last week was the Naughted Youth Conference in Vegas. We presented and shared a lot of our gamification program. So we do have an app that they can download for play 150 games in both English and Spanish right there
Awesome.
on the phone. So to be able to play the game and interact with that is amazing. But what I like what you're doing there and your mobile web app, we're working with Kalia in the Virgin Islands, and you'll see on their program is our app. When they click it, it takes them, as you mentioned, right to that site where they register, can sign up and get an account in Metrics Learning through the Virgin Islands Workforce Board and begin taking classes immediately right there on their phone.
It's all about getting those resources literally in the people who needs it hand immediately, right? And on the flip side, Khalil, from more of what you and your team do from a case management perspective, you're constantly chasing documents and information about the folks and things like that, right? And we built out a pretty slick document uploader capability into your platform. You want to kind of discuss and elaborate on how that is going to streamline your processes?
Yeah, so the local Department of Labor has a platform where individuals have the opportunity to upload certain, WIOA information, right?
Yeah.
And
could be a driver's license,
license, the birth certificate, high school diploma. And we found that a lot of individuals had a hard time utilizing that platform. One, you have to access it on a computer. A lot of people don't know how to use a computer. Everyone has a phone. So what we've done was we've imported their platform into the application on the phone. So now using your phone, you can literally, take a photo of your license and upload it. And it's been revolutionary.
Yeah, I love it. And it's a big piece of kind of that final step too in your process is that job verification, right? So once they get employed and they kind of get what they were seeking, how do you kind of wrap this up and make sure that they can prove that they got employed and things like that? And I know that's a huge piece in the role that these mobile web apps kind of play within that whole case management process, right?
Yeah, so I'd like to tell my team, Max, that this application is not only an incredible resource of information, it's also a tool that I want them to start using for every individual. When individual attains employment at the end of this process, we typically like for them to send us a copy of a check stub to confirm that they're working. And that upload section of the app has streamlined that process so much to where we don't have to be hunting them down for this information. They can send it, immediately sometimes.
Exactly. And think of it from the end user's perspective. If I had to, hey, I'm excited. I got my job, right? I'm stoked. I went through the process. The job center helped me get employed. I got my job. I got my first paycheck. The last thing I want to do is run down to the job center with my pay stub, take a copy of it. I'm happy. Mission's completed. But if I get a text message from Khalil, who's helped me through this process, saying, hey, can you just snap a photo of it real quick and just text it back to me? Boom, and it's done. So it just streamlines that whole process way more efficiently. And I think that's important to understand in this whole endeavor, right? Is it's not only information accessibility for the end user, the job seeker, but also on your end from the case management side too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot more efficient for everybody.
Yeah. And we'll jump into the exciting stuff now. I'm sure many of the people on the call joined this discussion just for the hot topic of artificial intelligence, right? It's the thing we see all over the news. It's the thing everybody's talking about. It's what our colleagues are on some weird program on their computer writing emails with and doing things that I don't understand. And all the different kind of accessibility to tools that maybe we didn't have before are now at our fingertips, and what do we do with them, right? So I think part of it is understanding what artificial intelligence even is, right? So just getting to the root of it. And by definition, artificial intelligence is a machine or a software that has the ability to perform cognitive functions we associate with human intelligence, right? So things like learning, perceiving, conversational, reasoning, interacting, things of that kind of nature are now, becoming more and more readily available for the everyday person, like on this call, right? And it's not something to be afraid of. We all unknowingly use AI all the time, right? I don't know, Sandy, Khalil, have you ordered an Amazon package in the past, month, 2 months?
Guilty.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Myself included too. So, and everybody on the call, I'm sure has ordered from Amazon too. And when you hit submit and place that order, it gives you an estimate of arrival for that package, right? And it says it'll be here Tuesday at 9 a.m. or whatever it might be. So that is artificial intelligence right there, right? That is an algorithm defining, hey, this is where that package is, and it's thinking about when it's going to arrive to your exact location. That's one example of everyday usage, right? And I know another really common one that is in everybody's house almost anymore is those smart thermostats, right? So those are constantly learning about when you're home, what temperatures you prefer, things like that. So it's adaptively learning about your habits of when you're home and what temperature you like it to be at. And if you're trying to budget and save money on your power bills like me living in Illinois and it's freezing cold, my furnace is running constantly, right? So those are another example of artificial intelligence that is in our house, right? It's everywhere. And the one that really kind of broke the barrier for everyday accessibility for everybody was ChatGPT, right? So that is the one everybody has heard about. And it's a really amazing tool to create content really in a moment click of a button, right? And this can be any information you're learning about, or it's essentially a search engine on steroids is kind of how I like to describe it, right? And I think Khalil, I don't know if you were on the panel with me at the Government Workforce Summit, but the kind of the conversation I have and the easiest way to make it kind of relatable is all of us are fluent in Google, right? We all know how to pull up Google and we want to learn more about trains. So we type in trains and we send there and search through and dig through all of the results, right? But with ChatGPT, you can just say, I want to know more about trains. And it will converse with you in that aspect. So it's kind of like learning a new language, right? So you're getting information much quicker and more delivered, but it's like having a conversation. And that's kind of how I describe it, is we all need to learn that new language of how to get the information we're seeking out, right? And I'm going to point out Sandy, this is months and months and months ago, but Sandy and I were on a call and I think we had both just came back from a conference and we were just talking like, oh, I have 10,000 emails I need to send, right? And I brought up on the call, I was like, well, have you checked out this ChatGPT yet? And Sandy was like, nope. So what I have you do, Sandy, I had you hop right on there, check it out, and you were, what did it do for you, Sandy?
It was what a time saver it is. At that point, I went in there and said, I've attended this conference. I needed to send follow-up emails, schedule a meeting. So I let it know, I attended the NOB Workforce Conference. I need to send follow-up emails to the executive directors. Can you write me the foundation of my email? And it happens like that. And talk about great word choices. So you learn how to copy and paste it. You got to tweak a few things here and there, but it sure gives you the foundation and saves a ton of time.
Yep. And that's kind of the everyday application, right? And the time to adopt it is now. And it's one of those things that if you don't, then you're going to fall behind. And unfortunately, that's a reality of any kind of evolution. I mean, when people invented the light bulb, when the light bulb was invented, you know why people were upset? Now I have to work at night, right? So it's always going to be something that that comes out, revolutionizes. But now that we have light, we have no burning flames in my house. I can drive at night, all these different things. It's kind of an equivalent to that level, that degree of capabilities are about to change really quickly, right?
And you mentioned, Max, you mentioned about the idea of communicating with it. So I asked it to create a PowerPoint and give me my bullets for a workforce webinar that I was creating for vocational rehabilitation across the country. So it listed out, and then you could tell it, well, take that same concept, but make it shorter, right? Because sometimes it just gives you too much info. It's like, take all of that and condense it down to a paragraph for me and reword it. And it does it just like that, guys. You got to check out ChatGPT.
To that point, Sandy, with these language models, the more instructions you prompt it, the better of a response it provides. So there's actually courses available right now on how to prompt it correctly to receive the type of answer that you want. A lot of times, if you ask a very vague question, it gives you a very vague response, but you can really drill down and get specifics, and it's incredible. It really is.
Yeah, I love it. So how do we take this amazing tool and apply it to workforce development? Where do we start? And Brittany, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, pretty please. This is how we've kind of taken a baby step towards utilizing this and putting it in the job seeker's hands, right? So luckily, through our partnership with Equus, we've kind of crafted this really interesting tool to provide to job seekers that can give them some of these low hanging fruit assistance of a couple of, how do I start a resume, how do I do a cover letter, all these little things that often bog down people with, how do I even start this process, and that's what this tool is really powerful with doing, is kind of overcoming that instant fear or inability of even knowing where to start. So if everybody on the call wants to scan that QR code, and I'll do it with you real quick. So if you scan that QR code, what's going to pull up is the United States Virgin Islands American Job Center mobile web app that we built in partnership with Metrics Learning, Equus, and the Workforce Development Board. And on this, you're going to see a lot of awesome icons here that you can explore, and feel free to do so. But at the very bottom, you'll see Equus AI Mentor. Okay. And this is that tool that I was just discussing about. And Brittany, if you wouldn't mind, can I share my screen real quick? All right, let me get mine pulled up. Give me 1 second. All right. And so this is what you'll be looking at on your phone. And this is the page that is the AI Mentor. And like I said, a couple of easy little prompts here that just can really help that job seeker get started in the process. And we can build an infinite amount of these. So let your imaginations run wild. These are just some of the ones that Khalil and my team and his team have kind of came together to really put instant access to some cool tools here. So things like resume keywords. So suggest some keywords that I should include for a job, and maybe I'm looking to become a truck driver. So I, as the job seeker, can go on here, type in, I'm looking to build a resume to be a truck driver, and look at how fast that was. Instantaneously, it's going to provide me with keywords that I should include, or little tools or tips of what I should include on my resume for applying to be a truck driver. And interview prep. What's the best way to prepare for a job interview for the position of medical assistant? And we hit submit, and it'll take a second here while it thinks, and then it'll spit out all kinds of interview preparation things here. So as a job seeker, I have a quick little 5 to 10 different ideas on how I should be preparing for my interview, right? And you can really see how this can be applicable for so many different things. I see, Khalil, your wheels are turning already.
Yeah, I was just about to say, what I really love about this is honestly, most people don't even know what question to ask. So
Yep.
I really love, that we've provided them with a guide, and literally they just have to type in that 1 or 2, keywords, and it spits out the answer. Yeah, it's great, as you can see.
How
And
many case
Go ahead.
managers have been asked to give a job recommendation? Give me a recommendation, please. And it takes
What I
time.
think it takes what?
Recommendation.
So with utilizing AI, it's literally you have access to unlimited computing power versus without using it, my staff isn't trained to be experts in every field imaginable, right? If someone walks in with a resume and they have certain sets of skills, it's very possible that my team may not know exactly how to connect the dots and what to recommend for that individual. Utilizing artificial intelligence, we can literally, input that individual's experiences, qualifications, and ask AI to spit out some recommended industries that we can then, push that individual into.
And do you think this is a first for the territory to have a resource like this available
Yes,
to the public?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that's unique to the US Virgin Islands. I think this is the first kind of tool like this that I've really seen deployed for workforce development. I mean, there are a lot of different organizations that are implementing AI in a million different ways, but I haven't seen this specific end user capability, Khalil, like you just described, where you're eliminating the largest part of the headache of utilizing AI, and that's how do I communicate with it? Like I mentioned earlier, of learning that new language, we're taking that away and providing it right there for them. So I think it's very, very exciting. Next slide, pretty please, Brittany. So other ideas, and I think this is where, everything is going to be a brainstorm session for everybody for a while, right? and just some of the ways that we've also integrated it into our platform. So implementing it into the text messaging. So part of the challenge, I'm sure, Sandy, when Metrics Learning is working with professionals, creating training modules and things like that, is creating that script, that content right off the bat. And that's often a large headache with how do I start this text message program as well. But now I'm sure as Metrics Learning and Engage by Cell and Equus, as we all continue to go down this path, just doing these little bite-sized pieces are going to be so monumental. So it's, you know, taking what little pieces we can and putting it in these little places and getting more familiar and learning more and more and more. But I am super excited personally about the ability to personalize learning plans and things like that, and providing kind of education through that manner as well.
Absolutely. And it shows here gamification building. You know, I was
Exactly.
talking to one of the workforce boards and they wanted to customize courses for their seniors on financial literacy, right? Financial literacy is something we're all trying to help our job seekers. So I went into ChatGPT and I said to them, I am going to be playing a game with juniors and seniors in high school. Can you write me trivia-based questions on the top 5, you know, financial literacy topics they should be aware of?
Great.
Yeah,
Boom.
I love
There it
Great.
is.
it. And
Amazing,
even
guys.
taking that a little bit further, once we really get it dialed in, I think the abilities are going to be limitless, essentially, right? So AI will have the ability to, you know, kind of intuitively and dynamically adjust the difficulty of content. So when we're kind of in this beginning stage of using it to create content, it's going to be living, breathing content eventually too. So it's going to adapt to make those quizzes or questions more difficult or less difficult, and things like that, and adjust to the actual end user to most effectively provide the training content to them. Which, and I mean, you want to talk about mind-blowing, I think that stuff is just right at the kind of cusp of where it's about to be, and it's really neat. But another low-hanging fruit that Sandy and I discussed, our personal experiences of sending out emails and things like that. I mean, internal applications. I think, Khalil, you touched on it too. How can you possibly train a case management worker to have every skill set ever? You know, you can't, right? So using it internally for skill gap analysis or self-educating as well, and email composition, these are all wild ideas that I think are going to be revolutionary, you know, right before our eyes here in the next 12,
Resume
20.
analysis as well.
Yeah, resume
Yeah.
analysis. Yeah. I want to kind of conclude as we're coming up here. I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions because I'm sure some
I'm
of the
gonna
listeners, yeah.
I'll jump in that first question while they're typing them or
Yeah.
thinking it is. As we hear all about this, we also hear about the ethics of it. So tell us what you think on that, Max.
Yeah, I think it's very important to also understand that, you know, it's such a powerful tool, and we're all very excited to continuously talk nothing but the graces, the good graces of it, how it's going to help us, how it's going to do this, that, and the other, right? But it's also important to understand that AI is going to be equally available to people who might want to use it in negative manners, right? So it's important to understand technology and utilize it responsibly, and also respect it. You know, it's important, I think, to respect the possibilities and learn as quickly as we can about it, just to avoid some of these ethical negativity things that can arise from it as well simultaneously, right? So I think it speaks for the importance of early adoption, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also important to not fear it. There's a lot of people who think that artificial intelligence is coming for their jobs.
I was one of them, Khalil.
Yeah, and to be honest, the same thing happened when computers were starting to get very popular. Everyone thought the computers are going to take my job. What happened? Computers actually ended up creating
Yeah,
so many more jobs. And I think the same thing is going to happen with artificial intelligence. It's going to um, accelerate industry, accelerate, revenue generation for companies. It's really a tool that I think that we should fear and we should embrace
yeah.
and utilize.
And to kind of give my personal experience, you know, professionally, you know, my expertise is in communications and information accessibility, right? And And what are those two things? You know, you look at ChatGPT as a language model, it basically checks those two boxes right off the bat. So when this all first started coming across, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be out of a job, right? I'm terrified. And I'm kind of speaking with our engineering team, our software engineers who are infinitely more intelligent than I am and always will be. But, you know, they kind of walked me back off the ledge and they're like, no, 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 no. You know, it's going to be a tool that makes smart people that much more intelligent, that much
Efficient.
quicker, efficient. Exactly. And it's not just about you have to be intelligent to use it, right? It's just learning how to apply it to your everyday life is going to be essential. And it's all going to just make everything that much more available to everyone and much more efficient, like you said, Sandy. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. There any other questions here in the chat window? Let me see. Yes, we will definitely send out the PowerPoint, and we will also provide the recording to everybody as well. And it is life-changing, so it's built into the platform, and will employers be able to use it back in to create training modules, etc. So you will be able to use it to create essentially any content that you want. And that could be, you know, applied to training modules, et cetera. And that's something I'm sure Metrics Learning obviously already has a full suite of training modules. So I think that would be a good application for Metrics Learning, and definitely reach out to Sandy to learn more about that. But as far as how it's utilized from a content creation standpoint, you can use it to generate text messages, you know, instantaneously, to communicate at a click of a button. And also from a content creation, you can use it to make quizzes, polls, generate any kind of text scripts, things like that. So definitely. Yeah. And Sandy, yeah, I was going to say, put your contact, and we'll put Sandy and myself and Khalil's contact information if you have any questions following up from this. And we'll distribute that out. As we got couple more minutes left, but I don't want to take up everybody's time. But if you have any other additional questions, if you want to throw them in the chat window real quick. Let's see. All right. Well, I think we're wrapping it up here. Thank you, Sandy, very, very much. I know you just got back from the conference in Vegas, and I'm sure you have a million and one things to do. And Khalil, thank you for coming in and joining me and filling in. I don't think I mentioned you filled in for David Gennaro. That's why your name tag is there. But David is the regional director, I think.
He's the regional director, correct.
He had something last minute come up, and Khalil is the superstar that said, I am ready to join. So he joined right in. All right. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. And again, we'll distribute all the information in the recording and things like that. So thanks, and have a great day, everybody.
All right, thanks, everyone.